Good morning. I'm Tyler Dawn Rosenquist of the Ancient Bridge and Context for Kids, and you can check out my videos on my video channels, Tyler Dawn Rosenquist on YouTube and Context for Kids on YouTube, as well as my blogs. So today I'm responding to a request from my friend Dominique on the subject of Lashon Hara, evil tongue, and the effect that it has on people being willing to be open and vulnerable about their struggles and about their sin and about their past. In other words, a lot of the things that we need to heal through, we need to get through. We need to be able to come before the body and say, I'm going through this. Please, somebody tell me that I'm not alone. Now, of course, I have made a ministry of doing this over the years, and as I've healed through different issues from my past, because, boy, I had a past, and a lot of you guys know about it, before I came to Messiah. And since I've come to Messiah, you know, you don't get fixed overnight. You're still a hot mess, and in a lot of ways, I'm still a hot mess. You know, I know you're all just incredibly shocked, but I wanted to talk about the importance of not only being willing to be vulnerable, but being able to be vulnerable. Being willing to be vulnerable is about us and about humbling ourselves before the body. And the way the body is right now, believe me, I know it's an incredible risk. My block list on social media is very long because, as Brené Brown, who has some incredible TED Talks, by the way, she says, not everyone deserves to hear your sob story. Not everyone can be trusted. Okay, not everyone is mature enough to encourage you through your vulnerability and not use it as an opportunity to absolutely destroy you emotionally. My dogs are in here with me, if you can hear the sound of groaning and old dogs trying to roll over. All right, so I want to talk to you. I want to go to Romans 7, verses 15 through 20. And Paul here is being incredibly vulnerable. I mean, Paul started out as a very, very prideful guy. And God had to knock him down. Well, God's had to knock me down. Not nearly so far as Paul, because my calling is not as, you know, hopefully I'm not going to be getting lashed 39 times and thrown into prison and stoned and shipwrecked, because I'm kind of a weenie. Anyway. All right. So, here we go. For I do not understand what I am doing. For what I do not want, this I practice, and what I hate, this I do. But if I do what I do not want to do, then I agree with the Torah that it is good. So now it is no longer I doing it, but sin dwelling in me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, my flesh. For the will is present in me, but to do the good is not. For the good that I want I do not do, but the evil that I do not want, this I practice. But if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I doing it, but sin that dwells in me. I'll keep on going here. So I find the principle that evil is present in me, the one who wants to do good. You know, and he goes on to talk about there's a different law battling in his body parts, battling against the law of his mind and bringing him into bondage of sin, which is in his body parts. Miserable man that I am, who will rescue me from this body of death? Thanks be to God. It is through Messiah Yeshua our Lord. So then with my mind, I myself serve the Torah of God, but with my flesh, I serve the law of sin. You know, who can't relate to that in honesty? Even after we come, you know, things don't fix themselves overnight. Most things. It's funny, before I came to Messiah 18 years ago, next month in January when I'm recording this, I swore like a sailor with an amputated limb that was still spurting blood. Okay, just as a regular conversation. I gave my life to Jesus in January of 1999. And the funny thing was, 2 weeks later, I noticed all of a sudden I'd stopped swearing. I was like, what? I used to swear every other word. It wasn't something I tried to do. It was one of those things that I was just, it was what you would call a sign and a wonder. It is an evidence of transformation. It was something that I hadn't done. And every once in a while, you know, I have one of those immediate transformations where I am taken out of one of my past sins, but usually not. Usually it's I'm fighting for years, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's gone. But I've had to fight. Now, something happened 2 days ago that, you know, anyone who was a kid during the 70s, you know, and loved the movies, it was very, very sad, and that was Carrie Fisher's death. And you know, Carrie Fisher led a troubled life. Gosh, she grew up with temptations that most of us can't even imagine. Yeah, she was acting when she was young. She was brought up in the party scene. She was Hollywood royalty. She was, you know, A-list children. And I doubt if anyone who is ever going to listen to this can even begin to imagine the temptations that were there. On top of it, she was bipolar. And yes, I absolutely believe that people can have chemical imbalances in their brain. After I had my stroke in 1997, I sure did. Things go wrong. The brain is an organ like anything else, and things can go wrong. You know, it's like things can go wrong with your brain, things can go wrong with your heart, things can go wrong with your gut. You know, it's just, we're living in a fallen world. Things can go wrong. And of course she was, you know, sexual sin and drug abuse, all that sort of thing. And I, you know, I and a lot of others posted to social media because she was 60 years old. And to us, she was Princess Leia, you know, the great female heroine. She was strong. And you know, I think she, in the 1970s, she really gave us girls someone to look up to at a time where women on television weren't always that strong, you know, and when there was danger, Princess Leia didn't squeal like a little girl. So that was big. That was huge. So going through social media, I saw someone that had posted that this was really sad. And, you know, I'm 47, 60 doesn't seem as old as it used to. Okay? And I've got heart issues, and so someone 60 dying of a heart attack is very close to home. But some of the comments, one in particular from a woman, were so vile. Well, she should be fearing death. She's an adulteress, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She was an adulteress when she was 19 years old, okay? You don't want to know what I was doing when I was 19, although you may know. If you knew me, I apologize, like I always say. Sorry. 41 years ago, she did this thing, and this woman is raking her over the coals for it. How vile. And I thought, you know what? That is what's wrong with the body Messiah. That's why people are hurting. That's why no one can heal. Because when we come into the faith, no one feels like they can say what Paul did here. That I'm still struggling. I mean, If you can't even talk about the things that you did before you were saved safely without somebody descending on you like a flock of hungry Valkyries, if you can't even talk about what you did before without receiving a lecture of the things that you've already repented of and you didn't do anymore, and you're seeing people constantly be judged, people who are outside of the body, who we're not even supposed to judge, because if you don't have that transformation that comes with salvation, why do we expect them to be able to behave any differently than they do? It's cruel and unfair. You know, if you're brought up in a system where that's okay, why do we judge them from the inside of a system where we know on the inside that it's not okay? We have a huge advantage, and it should humble us. You know, it should cause us to be compassionate to people who don't have that. But anyway, so we've got into this situation with Lashon Hara, which is evil tongue, just speaking evil of people, speaking evil of dead people. If dead people aren't safe, you know, what's going to happen to the living people? So we've got this dynamic where these people are operating with impunity in the body, just speaking evil, speaking discouragement, speaking condemnation, not over things that are being done right now, not for the purpose of correcting behavior right now, not for the purpose of saving someone's life, but just for the purpose of saying, oh, well, that's evil, and look at me. I know what evil is. Yes, guess what? You know, she was, you know, with a married man when she was 19. Did you know that's evil? Yeah, I think everyone in the audience knows it was not good, and yeah, I doubt if it's something that she was proud of in later years, okay? But she was 19. 60-year-old woman looking back on being 19. You know, I'm 47. I could look back on things that I did when I was 19 and make your hair stand on end. Look back on things that I was doing a couple months before I was saved. It would make your hair stand on end. I was unredeemed. You know. If Paul struggled, and Paul being an expert in the Torah, and having been raised in a righteous family, if Paul struggled, how much more compassion should we have for those of us who were brought up in this world? How should we congratulate and encourage them and help them to be vulnerable safely, and not make them feel like they're taking a risk by saying, you know, this and this, and I still struggle. I need help. I need someone to tell me that they've struggled too. I need people to not tell me that this is evil, because obviously I know that this is evil, or I wouldn't be struggling with it. If I thought it was good, I wouldn't bother struggling. And sometimes I think people just have no logical sense in their minds about what they're saying, or if they just want to say something so badly, if they would just want to be critical and disapproving so badly that they give what they're saying no thought. But here, right here, we've got Paul talking about how at his age sin rules his body. And although in his mind, where he knows the Torah, he wants to be the guy doing right. He wants to be the guy doing right. But sometimes he finds himself just overwhelmed. And I'm not saying that he was committing external sins. I'm saying that he was probably thinking things he shouldn't be thinking. I mean, it's hard not to think uncharitable thoughts about people. Oh my goodness. It's hard not to be angry. And when you have people coming against you the way Paul did, you know, it's hard not to fantasize about them, you know, walking along a building and having a, you know, one of those Wile E. Coyote 2-ton Acme weights fall on their head, you know. Hey, it's quick, it's painless. You didn't want them to suffer, you just want them dead. Or, you know, you want to You want them to suffer, suffer emotionally. You want them to feel bad for what they've done. It's just we think these uncharitable thoughts, and we're not as gracious and forgiving as we should be. We're unforgiving. That's another thing. That's an internal thing. You can act forgiving on the outside and not be forgiving on the inside. Paul knew that. I think Paul, the things he was struggling with is the battle. I know he was talking about the battle of the mind versus the flesh. Not this flesh, not the flesh that is actually going to do something, but the part of our minds that's just devoted to do evil, that really wants to do evil, that feels justified. It's like, yeah, just, or the secret sins that nobody sees. But God knows they're there. We know they're there. So anyway, we've got this situation on social media where people are terrified. I have seen people say, I am really struggling with this right now. And such and such. And sometimes it's not even that serious. I mean, it's so normal that it's not even funny. And there are some people, God bless them, they'll just say, oh, me too? Man, you are not alone. It's like, Then there are people saying, then, people will quote condemning Bible verses, as though the person who just revealed this sin mindset wasn't aware that there was a problem with how they think. We create this atmosphere where people are just terrified to be real. They're terrified of condemnation. They're terrified it's going to be used against them later. One of the nice things about doing videos and doing blogs is that if somebody says something about me, and I'll say, oh, well, the reason they found out about this is because I'm the one that said it in the first place. Here it is in context. I know they're making it out to be more than it is. And you know what? Shame on them. Shame on them. I had to make an executive decision a long time ago that, yes, these people can use my vulnerabilities against me, but I pity them. Because it will not go well for them. No good will come out of it for them. And if 10 people come against me for it, and I've helped one person overcome something in their life, isn't that worth it? Aren't they more important than I am? So, they're healing. If I'm already healed through something, isn't getting them healed, worth it? But I digress. Lashon Hara. Our words are so important. And we're not careful enough with them. I was just saying on social media the other day that, man, if only we had to spend a full year doing nothing but encouraging anyone. We couldn't do anything but encourage. A negative word against people couldn't come out of our mouths. If we became self-controlled to the point where we only allowed ourselves to encourage for a full year, and just trust God with the other stuff, knowing that until we've learned self-control in the area of encouragement/discouragement, that we are not fit to discourage, that we are not fit to condemn, that if we just trusted God, But if we went a full year and learned that self-control where we only spoke positively to people, think at the end of the year how much more effective our occasional rebukes would be. How much more discernment would we have? How would we have learned other ways to deal with things than just venting our disapproval, venting our criticism, which is very much an act of flesh. I would say 99% of the time with most people. It's unnecessary. If we got to the point where, encourage, discourage, people would listen to that one discouragement a lot more. because we'd encourage so much, they would know that we don't discourage lightly, that it must be important. They'd see us as somebody who cares, someone who is relationally invested in them, someone who cares because they've shown their care over time. You know, especially over social media, we don't have real relationships with these people. You know, we may be friendly, but we don't know them in real life. They don't know our walk. They don't know if we're faking it. You know, last night I was talking to a friend who was lamenting that he really believes that everybody on, you know, not everybody. I mean, I'm making a generalization. I'm going to misrepresent what he's saying, but I'm going to do it for a purpose. And he's going to laugh at me because he watched my videos. Okay. He has this illusion that, you know, the people who talk on social media about this situation and that situation and this crazy doctrine and this crazy doctrine, that they spend a lot of time studying the Bible. The people that argue Scripture spend a lot of time studying the Bible. That they spend a lot of time praying, more time studying than him, more time praying for him. I said, well, if they're spending their time on Facebook arguing, I can guarantee you they're not praying as much as you think they are. And I've come to find out that the people who argue a lot also don't study as much as one would think. And I said, you know what? I probably don't study nearly as much as you think I do. I probably don't pray as much as you've created this illusion in your mind that I do, that I'm some super spiritual, amazing person who is superhuman just because I'm a good writer. You got to be careful. You watch someone with a lot of charisma. Charisma is a gift. It's, you know, sneezy dogs this morning. Charisma is a gift. It's a gift that can be abused. It's a gift that adds this aura of credibility where sometimes there should be this, well, or I could say it adds this aura of incredibility, like this person's incredible. And credible when maybe they're not credible at all. And maybe you should be listening to somebody more boring. Goodness sakes, Bandit. So you should be listening to someone more boring because maybe they have more to say. Maybe they have more content and they just don't have the personal magnetism. So, you know, we got to be careful. There's a real ear-tickling thing that goes on when somebody has a lot of charisma. Well, in the same way, I have a lot of charisma when I write. I have a gift. I can make really complex things simple, and I'm funny, so I can kind of disarm people's objections. Well, that doesn't make me credible. That's a gift. I can abuse it. You guys know, you know that before I was saved, I was writing pornography on internet boards because I'm a really good writer. It's a gift. I abused it, you know, and now God has the last laugh because now it's like, I don't even want to think about that anymore. But, we often look at these people out there on social media and we assume that because they're rebuking others, they're studied. Because they're rebuking others, they're spiritually mature. Because they are condemning, it means that they have something that we don't. But oftentimes quite the opposite is true. A lot of times, yeah, I mean, like I said last week, who is the accuser of the brethren? Is it the Holy Spirit or is it the enemy? Well, it's the enemy. It's the enemy. You know, if somebody's constantly going about nitpicking and criticizing people on social media, it may be because there's no one in their life who's willing to see them anymore. And so this is their only, you know, opportunity left, because when people in real life see them, they run the other way. You know, they don't want to hear the gospel from them. They certainly don't want to hear about Torah from them, because they're going to assume that the Torah is the reason they're like this, when Torah was made to humble us. You know, Torah is what kept Paul's flesh from just running rampant, because our flesh will always want to do what is wrong. That doesn't change. That doesn't totally ever get overridden. We're going to always struggle with our flesh. I mean, thank God we're always going to struggle with our flesh. It's the struggle that makes us believers. If we weren't struggling, what would the point be? If we came to belief and we suddenly became these perfect, wonderful people that always do the right thing, well, I mean, then we would be God. No one would need him anymore. They just come to us. And believe me, you don't want to come to me mistaking me for God in any way, shape, or form, because I'm not there yet. Self-control. When people are being vulnerable, we control ourselves. And we only speak that which is edifying, helpful. We rein in our flesh. Okay? If someone's sharing a struggle, then they know that what they're struggling against is bad. They don't need to be told. They don't need to be lectured. They need to be encouraged because they're struggling. Struggle is, struggle is a virtue. Struggle is the greatest thing we can do. Struggle means we are not giving in without a fight. Struggle means that we are still stumbling, but that we're determined to get back up again. Never discourage a person who is being honest about struggling. Don't put them in a position where they feel they have to be ashamed to admit it, because I'll tell you something. Everyone who admits that they're struggling is speaking life to everyone else who's struggling. They're helping the body. They're helping other people get over their struggles. Now, I'm not talking about someone who's just whining year after year. Oh, woe is me. That's not a struggle. That's giving in to just, whatever. And I see that stuff and I just don't even respond. I'm kind of going, I don't want to go there. When it's just year after year or month after month, it's just nothing ever changes. It's just finding new things to whine about. But I don't get on there and rebuke them either, because that's not helpful. I don't have a relationship with these people. They don't need my constant disapproval. They don't need it. So anyway, encourage people who are struggling, because everyone who is honest is struggling. When you speak evil into the life of someone who is struggling, well, that's a form of Lashon Hara, evil tongue. It's not just about gossip. It's about destroying a person's progress and making it impossible to have an honest walk with their brothers and sisters. So, this is Small Bites of Fruit for this week, and the last time I'm recording in this room because we are moving. So, take care. Bye-bye.